It's been almost 6 months since the last time I saw my parents and my younger siblings. I got this job where the pay almost doubled my last income, but the city is 4 hours away from home. I was so busy that I have not been able to visit them. I miss them so much. But tonight, I will be able to see them all again for the first time in a long time. I worked extra hours every single day this week, so I didn't have anything pending for the upcoming week. I left the office at 6 p.m. and to my calculations, I should be arriving around 11, taking into account a small stop on a gas station to refuel and eat something. The first half of the trip was almost uneventful. I have known this road since I was a kid, and my father taught me how to drive. We came once every 2 months to the city to visit my uncle. He had had many health issues, and my father wanted to spend as much time as his duties in the farm allowed him to. At this time of the year, the sun sets really late. Today was forecasted to set at 9:27 p.m., so I was expecting most of my trip under daylight. And so it happened. I was able to see green fields, beautiful ponds, livestock, big old farms I used to see in my youth. Nothing had changed much in these past 20 years. I was, for the first time in many weeks, really happy. Around 2 hours into my trip, I finally arrived to my mandatory stop, Mr. Jackson's store and gas station. I have known him since I was a kid, and he was a great friend of my father's. When we began traveling so long ago, he had just a small dinner with 5 or 6 tables. The inn had 4 small bedrooms, each one enough for 2 adults or an adult and 2 children at most, and just 1 gas pump. Nowadays, he had a really big restaurant where 100 people could sit comfortably. The hotel has 3 stories with 10 double rooms each, and the gas station was big enough to refuel 10 trucks at the same time. His success had come because he had the only rest point on this road for the next 8 hours. Wise old man. I filled my car with gas and went straight to the counter. Mr. Jackson was so in love with his job that despite having such a success, he still ran the business most of the days. Tonight, it was full as usual. At least 50 people were drinking, eating, and telling tales. It was good to be back here again. When he saw me, he recognized me without hesitation and greeted me as you would have a long-lost son. "Hello, George, my boy. Long time to see you. How you doing? Going back home?" He said one after another, walking towards me and giving me a rib-crushing hug. "It's great, Mr. Jackson. I'm off to visit my family for the next week," I replied. "I can't wait to see them." "That's great news, my boy," he said. "I've heard things are going great in the farm. Your little brother will be starting high school soon, and your little sister recently won an award." "What was it about?" "Math for advanced children," I replied. "She's only 6 and beat kids who were twice as old as her. And yes, my father got a new business partner for specialty wheat that pays handsomely. He needed to hire 10 more workers because he couldn't handle the workload." "How's it going for you? How's the big city?" he inquired. I hesitated, and he knew it. To be honest, the job's good and the pay is great, but I feel like I didn't fit into the city lifestyle. He seemed to understand what I was thinking because he started to speak. "Look, Georgie, that's part of life. You had an opportunity and you grabbed it. You left your comfort zone and took the challenge. What do you think I'm doing so great? Or your father is? We saw an opportunity and made the most of it. See it that way." I said nothing, but I knew he was right. I smiled, and he smiled back at me. "But that's enough. Have you eaten anything? I still remember you like my chicken soup. Have a serving of it." I sat on an empty table. He sent a few minutes later his extremely beautiful daughter with my order and a soft drink. She sat on the table, I think on his orders, but I did not mind. To be honest, she seemed to like the idea too. We spoke for a while, even after I finished my order, speaking about my dreams, her dreams, and meeting sometime soon. This stop here was always worth it. After a while, Mr. Jackson came back. "I'm sorry to disturb you children, but you seem to be enjoying too much," he said. But at the same time, he was beaming and winked at us. "Georgie, I have you ready. You can rest here. Free of charge, of course. And tomorrow you can leave at sunrise." "Oh no, I must leave now. I have to arrive tonight," I said. Mr. Jackson's expression changed and got real serious. "What do you mean you have to arrive tonight?" "Your father knows you are traveling at night," he said. "No, he doesn't," I replied. "They expect me tomorrow. I am going to surprise them." Mr. Jackson did not change his expression. If anything, he looked concerned now. "How many times have you traveled through this road?" he asked me. "Lots. I can't remember, Mr. Jackson." And how many of those have been after sunset? Now that I think about it, not even once, Mr. Jackson, I replied. He was right. In all these years, I have not traveled on that road after sunset, but never thought about it. Now it was suspicious. Mr. Jackson saw my puzzled expression and began. Georgie, another reason for my success is because every truck driver that comes at this point just before sunset has to stay here. The reason is the fog. His daughter widened her eyes and went pale. He seemed to be afraid even to mention it too, but then he continued. We don't know why it happens and when it started, but after sunset, a thick fog covers the roads completely. You can see more than a meter away. You can't leave it until the sun rises, and those who went into it are not the same. Those who manage to leave and not get lost forever anyway. They always come telling strange tales of phantoms or monsters, or being somewhere else for years, although they just stayed there for a few hours, or meeting with witches, lost family members, many strange things indeed. I had never heard about this, but the people who were on tables around were listening, and I could see in their eyes they believe it somehow. You could see the fear in them. It's 9 o'clock. Every single person you see here is staying. Trust me when I tell you, you should not leave. He gave me a grave look. I wanted to go home, and this story seemed to me like something out of a low-budget movie. I'd never heard about it, but he seemed really concerned. He softened his expression and added, If you stay, I invite some drinks. I don't let her get friendly with anyone, but I like you. And he glanced at his daughter, who blushed. I was thinking really hard. The prospect of spending a few hours talking with Mr. Jackson's daughter was great. To be honest, I was starting to like her, and she liked me too. I could go early in the morning, but it was also true that I had already made arrangements to meet her soon and wanted to surprise my parents. I had made my mind. All right, Mr. Jackson, I'm staying. He seemed relieved. Great! I'll bring you a few beers, and Monica, why don't you change your uniform into something more comfortable? They both left, and I took my chance. I stood up and went straight to the door. It was 9:05, and there was still sunlight. I started my car and resumed my drive. I kept thinking why Mr. Jackson had said that. Perhaps he wanted me to hook up with his daughter. Well, I don't mind that, and I'm not going to complain about it. Also, he could be saying that as a strategy to keep business running, although he seemed genuinely concerned. I was lost in these thoughts when I had to turn my lights on. It was already dark outside, and the temperature was dropping, but as I expected, no mysterious fog. I kept driving for a few moments, and it slowly happened. Gray clouds started to fall in every direction until everything was covered by it. I couldn't see more than a meter away from my car. It was so thick and dense, it looked like a solid wall. This setback was going to make my driving dangerous, so I decided to stop. It was better to arrive late than not arriving altogether. I sped down and parked outside the track. I didn't even dare to go back because the visibility was so poor. No other car seemed to be driving on this road on these conditions. A few more minutes passed, and many more then. After an hour or so, something changed. At the beginning it was calm, but then I started to hear sounds outside. Sounds that at first were unintelligible for me, but as I focused more and more on them, they heard like laments, and those laments grew louder and louder every second until I could clearly hear what they said. People crying for lost family members, for not being able to see them again, and for not listening to warnings. What came next was worse. It was not only listening to laments, but now I was seeing these people walk by my car, left and right on a line. All were looking to the ground and did not seem to notice me. Their faces went sunken, like if they had been starving for several weeks, and looked really sad, more like miserable. I didn't even dare to take a breath. They warned me, and now I was super afraid to the bones watching terrified this terrible scene. I took my phone and tried to make a call, but it had no signal. Tried to dial the emergency line, but it was dead. I didn't know what to do, and the worst that could have happened then happened. My phone fell, making a loud thud on the car's floor. Both lines of people stopped on the spot and turned directly to face me, like they've just found I was there. I held my breath, but it was too late. They had already seen me. Their faces changed from sorrowful and regretful to something terrible. They all yelled with a terrible voice at the same time, showing me pointed teeth with mouths wide open beyond anything humanly possible. The ones on the sides got to my car and started to rock it from side to side. The ones already on the back jumped on it, and the ones at the front came to my windshield. One of them, who looked like a child, tried to reach. I thought I was safe inside, that the glass would stop him, but his hand went through like getting into water. I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything. He went and grasped my throat. Despite being a kid in size, he was more powerful than anything I have ever felt. And just as his hand had gone through the windshield, he crossed it too. He sat next to me while still grasping with such force that he was choking me. His yelling face turned to something more evil. Now he was smiling. A joyful smile was suffocating me. He was enjoying it. I was going to die, and he was making sure I knew he was happy for it. Then he brought his face too close to me and spoke. He wasn't moving his lips, just kept his smile, but a terrible voice came out of him.
You should have listened. Now you will pay for it. I wonder what will make you suffer the worst.
After that, he grinned horribly and became the same fog that was outside. Its fumes entered right through my nose into my body. I felt a terrible burn inside me and a malevolent cackle. Then I knew no more. Suddenly, I woke up really agitated. I wasn't sure what had happened to me. The sun was already rising and everything seemed normal. That unholy fog had already cleared. I probably fell asleep and had had a bad dream. A terrible dream that will probably haunt me for a while. Next time I stop by Mr. Jackson's, I will tell him that I'm sorry and I will follow his advice. I started the engine and resumed my travel. Right now, I'm entering my town and I can't wait to see my family. They won't expect me for at least half a day, so it will be a great surprise. I'm passing through town and I see many things have changed. New businesses, parks, buildings. So much has happened in the last 6 months. It looks like as if more time has passed. No time to dwell on that. Home's 2 blocks away. I park at the front of my house and it's different too. I see they have painted from white to grey. That tree? It wasn't there the last time I was here. Considering its size, it's too big to have grown that much in such a short time. I get off my car and open the fence, which is new too. That has been busy for sure. The door is also different. Anyway, I ring the bell, which is different too. I'm coming, answers a voice I don't recognize. Oh, hello, mister. How may I help you? The woman who opened is unknown to me. Familiar, but I do not know who she is. Oh, hello? Is this the Johnson's house? I asked, confused. Yeah, it is, she said. Are you looking for someone? Yes, my father, George Johnson Sr. Or my mother, Amanda Johnson. The woman looks at me in disbelief. Then she looks back at me with utmost hate. I only have 2 brothers, Georgie and Chris, and Georgie disappeared 50 years ago today inside the fog. Have some respect for the memory of my parents and my eldest brother and stop making fun of a family tragedy. She slammed the door in my face. What had happened? 50 years? This was nonsense. A cruel joke for sure. I tried to turn on my phone, but it doesn't work. Then go to a nearby store and watch in terror the date on the newspaper. 50 years after my road trip back home. I can't believe it. What happened the night before was not a nightmare, but a real event. That little monster inside the fog said he was going to take away from me what I treasured the most. And he did. He took my family away.
If you reached this far, please give us a like, consider subscribing, activate notifications, and follow us on social media. Soon, we'll be back with more Inside the Cleft of the Mansion.